Hello and welcome to Camera Review. Today we are looking at Profoto B10 and B10 Plus. There are small compact strobes that can go on location. It does not require extensive cabling or outlets. It is battery operated and it is an incredible breakthrough for the world of photography. Yet we are looking at this in a point of view of somebody who is going to be investing into the system of Profotos. As you may know, one of the B10s that has first been announced at 250 watts is costing about $1,700, actually 1695 on some of the websites, and the B10 Plus, which is the 500 watt version, is selling for almost $2,100. So what we are having is these two very expensive units that is out there that is going to serve professionals in a very important way, which is to be able to do location shoots without having to carry heavy equipment. Before, what we had to do was carry lots of large packs that had to house these units, and then had to have a lot of batteries, and we had to change them. But getting them into a compact size that you can fit in your backpack, just two or three of those, and then going on location to shoot is a very important development. Now there are strobes in the market that are either produced by third parties, like the Chinese manufacturers, or competitively wise, Broncolor produces their L400, L800 series. But deep down, when we look at it, it is the compactness, it's the lightness that gives the advantages to these flashes, and that's why I look at them from the point of usability rather than price. Of course, price is an important determining factor on deciding if you want to go invest in such a light. But I look at it from the point of view is how much time and money it will save me when I'm doing it on a professional basis. And when you go on location, one of the main problems we have is the size of the equipment that we carry. If it's compact, if it's small, we can take more number of lights, or have the alternative way of being able to transport it with less people. So it's going to save time on the number of assistants you may need. It's going to save time in the way that you have to transport it. It's going to save time on the luggage, or if you're flying to a location, everything else. It's also going to reduce your bulk. So in that respect, those are the fundamental things that I look when I'm traveling, because it's going to allow me to do a lot of things that I would not normally be able to do with regular flashes, which is to have more power and that ability to overpower the sun to a certain extent. It is for me, investing in smaller light fixtures that can travel on to location is critical. And it is for this reason I like to use the B10s and B10 Pluses. Now I tell you the story of what happened with the B10s. When they first announced, like everybody else, I rushed in to buy it. But then the B10 Plus came out less than a year later, and it got me very excited because now I could have more power. So the B10s, which could be sold very easily, were replaced with the B10 Plus, and that is one of the reasons why I felt it was necessary to upgrade, because the 500 watts power is more than sufficient to do just about 99% of my work. And coupled with the idea that you can use your other existing modifiers on those, helped me to do incredible work out in the field. The way I approached it was to take the B10 Pluses, attach, let's say, a beauty box or a beauty dish on it, and then have a top light that's going to illuminate the portraiture, the subject, and then have one of those reflectors at the bottom to get loop lighting or beauty lighting, or do a clamshell. These are all these other options that I had in my arsenal that I could use. Alternatively, I could bounce through these lights onto a reflector to get even a softer light. These are all things that I considered when I was investing into it. What I had to also consider is how much more am I spending to get these lights. And what I found is that the B10 had held his value very well. I had only lost about $100 a pair light when I had to replace it. So that meant that it was holding its value very well. When you buy a light, for example, a light fixture, and use it for a couple of months or even a year, the value drops quite considerably, more than 20-30%. These lights held this value very well. So that's one of the reasons I said it is good idea to go into the B10 Plus. And when I bought the B10 Plus, I realized that the light capabilities were a lot better, because then I didn't have to use the light fixtures in their maximum, but at half the power. Even half the power gave me plenty of latitude to do all kinds of work. But there are times when I had to use 80 or 90% of its power, especially during daylight. That is when I appreciated using a 500 watt system rather than having a 250. 250 would not have been enough. That's one of the reasons why I liked it. And also, if you look at the compact size of these B10 and B10 Pluses, they are relatively small. It just looks beautiful. It's easy to transport. And more importantly, when I had to hire an assistant in locations where I hadn't worked before, I didn't have to explain 1/16th of power or 1/32nd of the power or 1/64th of the power. I just said, go to 8, and then, or go to 7, or go to 6.5, and they would know exactly how to do it, because those large panels in the back allowed it to be read quite easily, and it was no guesswork there. It was just so easy for anybody who didn't know how to use this equipment to be able to use it effectively. And then if you look at the way that the interface is beautifully integrated into a pad system, I could just dial those when I was working on my own, when I didn't have too many assistants and the assistants were busy, for example, holding the light somewhere. I could dial it in from my iPad or from my smartphone. That gave me a lot of ability to do things that I would otherwise would have been difficult. And also, I like the fact that you could take these and then not have to worry about checking them into your bigger luggages that could make perhaps end up damaging it. You could travel it in your backpack, and that's exactly what I did. I put it into one of my small backpacks, and then I took the lights there, and then I had my camera in my carry-on roller, which is a think tank version of it, and it carried all my equipment. So all I could do was I put everything in there, took it up to the airport, checked it in, no issues. The batteries were small enough so they didn't held up a lot of weight, and then I could fly with it. And that was just beautiful to do that. Now, if you look into the market, of course there are competitors out there, but nothing that is as compact and as usable as the B10 and B10 Pluses that is out there. For a lot of reasons, of course, there are quite debates about whether the front element where the bulb should be exposed or not. Well, there is pluses and minuses. Of course, having it exposed gives a lot of more ability to use the light more efficiently and have it a better spread. But also, with the way that Profoto has it is better, because it does not have a situation. It doesn't permit a situation where it can be damaged. What happens is a lot of times you will see it banged, or something will happen, and the bulb will break, and it will cause a failure into the project that we may be doing. This way, when it's already housed in and it just like a flash into the unit itself, there is nothing to break actually, unless you drop the light on the floor and something internally gets damaged. This way, I think, is the best way to use this system, is because it allows location shoot without having to worry about handling it very, very carefully. Of course, we always want to make sure that it's handled well, so the light stands would always have either an assistant holding it or would be sandbagged. That is something also you should consider when you're going on shoots, because a lot of people think that they can just leave the stand there with the light modifier on top of it, and then the wind blows, locks it down, and they've got a problem. What I always do is bring a sandbag that's empty, fill it with water, hang it onto the leg of the stand. We're all good. And then at the end of the day, when we've done shooting, we empty out the water, we take it away, and it's perfect. And that way you don't have to carry a lot of weight, but you're also able to protect your system. And the way I do this is I ensure that I have enough sandbags with me to protect whatever is up on the light post. Also, the tripods that we use are very, very lightweight, so they can just travel with us in our on our bags, and that way we know that it can be taken out and be put together very, very easily. And it's just it's a beautiful convenience to be able to use these lights in variety of circumstances without having to bring large tripods. In the other systems where you have a larger light unit, you need a stronger tripod. In this one, a smaller tripod works wonderful. For that reason, I always suggest to anyone who wants to come and attend my workshop, if you're going to bring a strobe, if you're going to bring a flash, make sure you are going to be able to carry it throughout the day, because we're going to be on our foot like 5-6 hours. And for a unit like this B10 Plus, you could carry it for 5 hours and not be worried because it can fit into your backpack. The other versions that are larger and heavier, it's going to require that you have an assistant. And as having an assistant is always a plus, but it's not always the option. Sometimes when we travel, we are without assistant, and that's sometimes what we have to do. What I have found is, like, when I go to Italy or France or any of those major cities where I'm going to do photo shoot and I am alone, or I decided that I wanted to stroll, I could throw into my backpack one of those lights and then have it ready for me to get the right uh, accentuation in the highlights or the darks, or bring out the shadow details if by using these flashes. And all I have to do is put it onto a place where it's stable and then shine it to wherever I need, and then have the picture taken. Sometimes I can even carry a small tripod where I can put it on top of it. I have even held it handheld. It hasn't given me any trouble, but it would not have been possible had the light been heavier. It is for that reason I think B10 Plus is really good unit. What I'm waiting, of course, is to see what other competitors are going to bring out, because Chinese are very infamous for their ability to almost copy it identically, to put out a unit that looks like it, as they have done with, for example, their Profoto A1 and A1X. I'm expecting that something like this might come out. But again, what I look for is the quality, the build quality, how it's well done, how it is performing, and what kind of light modifiers I can put on it. Profoto has all those things, all those ingredients that I'm looking for in composing a great image. It is the light modifiers at the end of the day that's going to allow you to shape the light in the way you want, but you have to have the power. That's why Profoto B10 Plus is the one that I've chosen, and that's the one I work with. Now, if you look at the details, you're going to see that it has all kinds of abilities to TTL and other kinds of things when you have the right remote. And also it's going to give you ability to walk around and use the modeling light that it has to be able to shape the light that you're going to have, and give you an idea of how it's going to look. And for me, I think what I look for in that is to see how that light is going to reflect on something, rather than, oh, I'm going to illuminate it and use the modeling light to take the photograph. It is for that reason you have to know how to use the modeling light and know what kind of an image you're going to get when you shine it on that subject that you are going to take a photograph of. Sometimes it could be a large area, it could be the ceiling of a building, or it could be a person with a dark background. You have to know how to use those. But modeling lights overall give you the ability to know exactly how the light is going to fall on that person before you're taking the photograph. That saves you the time from having to retake the shot again and again, moving the light, because you already know what you're gonna get. So for me, I think that's a big plus. Also, when you look at it, it has a very nice color temperature. It's very consistent. When you look at the color temperature, it does not vary drastically. It's only within 100 to 150 Kelvin that you will see a differentiation when you lower it or raise it up. And I think that is more than sufficient to ensure that your images look good without having to worry about the color shifts. For me, I always use the white cards. I use Passport X for getting the color tones right. For me, those are critical, but not everybody has to use it. Definitely having a color consistency helps. For that reason, getting a light that you invest a little bit more is a valuable investment, and for me that's important. Also, you're going to find that it has a USB-C port, which is going to allow it to update and have other options be there for the firmwares and everything else that might come out. I think that opens up a new venue to be able to use it in different ways, and it may be very well that they're going to find a better way of improving the software overall. Or if there's things that need to be done, it can be done through the USB port, and that is beautiful because a lot of the lights do not have this kind of feature. Also, you're going to find that the battery capacity is about 3000 ohms, and that is going to give you pretty decent amount of shots, and we may see that in the future that these batteries become more powerful, and that may require an update in this firmware to recognize those batteries. We might have third-party batteries that will also operate, and we may again require that update on the firmware to be there to recognize the third-party batteries. So I think that Profoto engineers were very forward-thinking when they designed it, and I think it's going to stand the testament of time for a period of maybe 2 or 3 years before maybe we see another upgrade in the Profoto 10B Plus. Also, you're going to find that the charging on these batteries is about an hour and a half, which is very reasonable. They could have put a more powerful battery, then it would just mean bigger battery and it would mean longer charging times. I prefer the smaller batteries because I know what I'm going to get and how much I'm going to shoot on a given day basis. So if I take 2 batteries with me, it's more than sufficient instead of taking a big battery and then having it weigh the unit down. Also, you will find that the display, the LCD screen, is very large and beautiful, so it gives you an idea of what you're getting and how you're navigating. Very simple interface, much like the way the iPhones were in the very beginning. Now it's gotten more and more complex, but this simplicity makes it a breeze to operate. Even for somebody who has never used it, it's a great advantage. You're gonna find that the Profoto 10B Plus is gonna be about 2 kilos, 1.9 kilos. So that translates to about roughly 4.2 pounds. So it is not altogether very light, but it's still a decent amount of weight for a small unit like this. Otherwise, you will have to go to 2 or 3 times that weight to get that much power. So it's a good investment in all those respects, and I think that if you look at the other units that are in the lineup, the Profoto A1s and the D1s and the B2s, all those things are made to work integrally with this system. For me, that is also an important factor. So when you put it all together, it does make sense to invest in a system like the Profoto B10 Plus. Of course, price is always going to be a determining factor, but beyond price, if you look at it, it is an investment that you have to consider as a business proposition. Would this unit bring me back the money that I'm investing in? For my case, it does bring me back because I know that it's going to save me time, money, and other things, and also going to make my work a lot easier. So that is always a plus. So I hope this has been an informative information for you to consider investing in a Profoto system. If you have any questions, please drop a line in the section below and I'll answer them. There are also links in the description section where you can get these lights in a very decent price, and also you can find some of these items on sales and those links. So I hope I see you in our next review, and I thank you for watching.